The 12 Chairs by Ilf and Petrov. Chapter 6. A Diamond Haze. Ippolit Matveyevitch took off his stained beaver hat, combed his mustache, which gave off a shower of sparks at the touch of the comb, and having cleared his throat in determination, told Ostap Bender, the first rogue who had come his way, what his dying mother-in-law had told him about her jewels. During the account, Ostap jumped up several times and, turning to the iron stove, said delightedly, "Things are moving, gentlemen of the jury, things are moving." An hour later they were both sitting at the rickety table, their heads close together, reading the long list of jewelry which had at one time adorned the fingers, neck, ears, bosom, and hair of Vorobianinov's mother-in-law. Ippolit Matveyevitch adjusted the pince-nez, which kept falling off his nose, and said emphatically, 3 strings of pearls. Yes, I remember them. 2 with 40 pearls and the long one at 110. A diamond pendant. Claudia Ivanovna used to say it was worth 4,000 rubles, an antique. Next came the rings. Not thick, silly, and cheap engagement rings, but fine, lightweight rings set with pure polished diamonds. Heavy, dazzling earrings that bathe a small female ear in multicolored light. Bracelets shaped like serpents with emerald scales, a clasp bought with the profit from a 1,400-acre harvest, a pearl necklace that could only be worn by a famous prima donna. To crown everything was a diadem worth 40,000 rubles. Ippolit Matveyevitch looked round him. A grass-green emerald light blazed up and shimmered in the dark corners of the caretaker's dirty room. A diamond haze hung near the ceiling. Pearls rolled across the table and bounced along the floor. The room swayed in the mirage of gems. The sound of Ostap's voice brought the excited Ippolit Matveyevitch back to earth. "Not a bad choice. The stones have been tastefully selected, I see. How much did all this jazz cost?" 70 to 75,000. Then it's worth 150,000 now." "Really, as much as that?" said Ippolit Matveyevitch jubilantly. "Not less than that. However, if I were you, dear friend from Paris, I wouldn't give a damn about it." "What do you mean, not give a damn?" "Just that, like they used to before the advent of historical materialism." "Why?" "I'll tell you. How many chairs were there?" "A dozen. It was a drawing-room suite." "Your drawing-room suite was probably used for firewood long ago." Ippolit Matveyevitch was so alarmed that he actually stood up. "Take it easy. I'll take charge. The hearing is continued. Incidentally, you and I will have to conclude a little deal." Breathing heavily, Ippolit Matveyevitch nodded his assent. Ostap Bender then began stating his terms. "In the event of acquisition of the treasure, as a direct partner in the concession and as technical advisor, I receive 60%. You needn't pay my national health, I don't care about that." Ippolit Matveyevitch turned gray. "That's daylight robbery." "And how much did you intend offering me?" "Well, 5% or maybe even 10%. You realize, don't you, that's 15,000 rubles. "And that's all?" "Yes."
"Maybe you'd like me to work for nothing and also give you the key of the apartment where the money is."
"In that case, I'm sorry," said Vorobianinov through his nose. "I have every reason to believe I can manage the business by myself."
"Aha, in that case I'm sorry," retorted the splendid Ostap. "I have just as much reason to believe, as Andy Tucker used to say, that I can also manage your business by myself."
"You villain!" cried Ippolit Matveyevitch, beginning to shake. Ostap remained unmoved.
"Listen, gentlemen from Paris, do you know your jewels are practically in my pocket, and I'm only interested in you as long as I wish to prolong your old age."
Ippolit Matveyevitch realized at this point that iron hands had gripped his throat. 20%, he said morosely.
"And my grub?"
asked Ostap with a sneer.
25. "And the key of the apartment?"
"But that's 37,500.
"Why be so precise?" "Well, all right, I'll settle for 50%. We'll go halves."
The haggling continued, and Ostap made a further concession. Out of respect for Vorobianinov, he was prepared to work for 40%. "That's 60,000, cried Vorobianinov.
"You're a rather nasty man," retorted Bender. "You're too fond of money."
"And I suppose you aren't," squeaked Ippolit Matveyevitch in a flute-like voice.
"No, I'm not."
"Then why do you want 60,000?
"On principle."
Ippolit Matveyevitch took a deep breath.
"Well, are things moving?"
pressed Ostap. Vorobianinov breathed heavily and said humbly, "Yes, things are moving."
"It's a bargain, District Chief of the Comanche."
As soon as Ippolit Matveyevich, hurt by the nickname Chief of the Comanche, had demanded an apology, and Ostap, in a formal apology, had called him Field Marshal, they set about working out their disposition. At midnight, Tikhon the caretaker, hanging on to all the garden fences on the way and clinging to the lamppost, tottered home to his cellar. To his misfortune, there was a full moon.
"Oh, the intellectual proletarian, officer of the broom!"
exclaimed Ostap, catching sight of the doubled-up caretaker. The caretaker began making low-pitched, passionate noises of the kind sometimes heard when a lavatory suddenly gurgles heatedly and fussily in the stillness of the night.
"That's nice," said Ostap to Vorobianinov. "Your caretaker is rather a vulgar fellow. Is it possible to get as drunk as that on a rouble?"
"Yes, it is," said the caretaker unexpectedly. "Listen, Tikhon," began Ippolit Matveyevich. "Have you any idea what happened to my furniture, old man?" Ostap carefully supported Tikhon so that the words could flow freely from his mouth. Ippolit Matveyevich waited tensely, but the caretaker's mouth, in which every other tooth was missing, only produced a deafening yell. "Happy days!" The room was filled with an almighty din. The caretaker industriously sang the whole song through. He moved about the room, bellowing, one moment sliding senseless under a chair, the next moment hitting his head against the brass weights of the clock, and then going down on one knee. He was terribly happy. Ippolit Matveyevich was at a loss to know what to do.
"Cross-examination of the witness will have to be adjourned until tomorrow morning," said Ostap. "Let's go to bed."
They carried the caretaker, who was as heavy as a chest of drawers, to the bench. Vorobianinov and Ostap decided to sleep together in the caretaker's bed. Under his jacket, Ostap had on a red and black checked cowboy shirt. Under the shirt, he was not wearing anything. Under Ippolit Matveyevich's yellow waistcoat, already familiar to readers, he was wearing another light blue worsted waistcoat.
"There's a waistcoat worth buying," said Ostap enviously. "Just my size. Sell it to me."
Ippolit Matveyevich felt it would be awkward to refuse to sell the waistcoat to his new friend and direct partner in the concession. Frowning, he agreed to sell it at its original price, 8 rubles.
"You'll have the money when we sell the treasure,"
said Bender, taking the waistcoat, still warm from Vorobianinov's body. "No, I can't do things like that," said Ippolit Matveyevich, flushing. "Please give it back." Ostap's delicate nature was revulsed.
"There's stinginess for you," he cried. "We undertake business worth 150,000 and you squabble over 8 rubles. You want to learn to live it up."
Ippolit Matveyevich reddened still more, and taking a notebook from his pocket, he wrote in neat handwriting, 25F27 issued to Comrade Bender, RS8. Ostap took a look at the notebook.
"Oh, if you're going to open an account for me, then at least do it properly. Enter the debit and credit. Under debit, don't forget to put down the 60,000 rubles you owe me, and under credit, put down the waistcoat. The balance is in my favor, 59,992 rubles. I can live a bit longer."
Thereupon, Ostap fell into a silent, childlike sleep. Ippolit Matveyevich took off his woolen wristlets and his baronial boots, left on his darned Jaeger underwear, and crawled under the blankets, sniffling as he went. He felt very uncomfortable. On the outside of the bed there was not enough blanket and it was cold. On the inside he was warmed by the smooth operator's body, vibrant with ideas. All three had bad dreams. Vorobianinov had bad dreams about microbes, the Criminal Investigation Department, velvet shirts, and Bezenchuk the Undertaker in a tuxedo, but unshaven. Ostap dreamed of Fujiyama, the head of the Dairy Produce Cooperative, and Taras Bulba selling picture postcards of the Dnieper. And the caretaker dreamed that a horse escaped from the stable. He looked for it all night in the dream and woke up in the morning worn out and gloomy without having found it. For some time he stared in surprise at the people sleeping in his bed. Not understanding anything, he took his broom and went out into the street to carry out his basic duties, which were to sweep up the horse droppings and shout at the old women pensioners.